So Jack, tell us about your book. This is your fourth book. Tell us a little bit, why you wrote it and sort of what you hope the takeaway is for readers.
Well, it's called Hooked Up, a new generation's surprising take on sex, politics, and saving the world. And it's really a very hopeful book. It takes a generation and really recognizes that there's no such thing as the millennials. The millennials are a myth. Right in the middle of the millennial period, which is typically 1980 to 2002, 2005, came the internet. And everyone born pre-internet is very different than those post-internet. And as I was researching the transformation and the impact of the internet on the generations, and I found this window, this 5-year generation born 91 to 95. I call them internet pioneers. They're the first ones to cross the chasm between the pre and the post-internet, so they're our window to the future, and still somewhat with the sensibilities and sensitivities of the pre-internet generation. And what I found was a really amazing story about a generation that is very different than all those who have come before, and are our window to generations that will be leading the world in very different directions than it's been going in for the past 2 to 3 decades.
And who's your audience? Well, you hope the whole world.
Well,
who's it written for, if it is, or do you have an audience in mind?
Yeah. Well, it's really relevant to business people, to executives, to marketers, advertisers, media and entertainment executives, but it's also relevant to educators, to religious leaders, to politicians. Mostly, though, it's relevant to parents and to the generation themselves, who find it to be the first thing they've read that's actually hopeful about their future as opposed to negative about their future.
So let's switch gears. Jack, you know a little bit about the media buying world. Give us sort of a little bit of an overview in terms of media buying and digital video, and what's happening now, kind of where we are, where the industry needs to go, and sort of what you think is exciting or frustrating.
Well, most of what I see in the business today is really exciting. We're on the other side of the tipping point where we're seeing that the chaos and change that we've had for the past 20 years brought on by the computer and by the internet is now moving to a period where we're looking for stability in ways to create stability out of chaos. We're looking at taking all the information that's being generated and creating knowledge out of information. So there are really some fundamental shifts taking place. In terms of video and advertising and television, I really see that there's one industry emerging increasingly. The video industry is emerging, and every medium is participating in the video industry, from online video to television to radio is now becoming increasingly video. Music is becoming increasingly video. Print is moving more toward the iPad platform and developing video. So the media industry is becoming a video industry, and I think all of us really need to understand it as a singular platform that's going to be increasingly two-way, interactive, and that's not just people tweeting or updating their Facebook page about what they're watching on television, and it's not just promotional vehicles using social TV to communicate out to an audience, but it's really an engagement and a two-way interaction and a process. And that radically shifts the focus of advertisers and marketers. It radically shifts the focus of talent and producers and studios, and dramatically shifts the focus of advertising, sales, and operations. I think it's the sales groups that are going to get it last, because they're the most embedded in the traditional models and maintaining and sustaining the traditional models. But I think we'll look back in 5 years and not even recognize the business that we have today. I think video syndication and video operational management, of being able to take video content and syndicating it out across multiple platforms. A company called Grab Media, Tidal TV, Videology is a very powerful company. There are a number of really important platforms out there. There are a lot of social media companies that are doing extremely well. The challenge, I think, for all of these companies that are in the digital space is that there's 12,000 of them, if you look across all the platforms, and room for maybe 10% of that. So we're going to see a lot of consolidation and contraction. And in that context, the companies that I'm most excited about are the Disneys, the CBSs, the Viacoms, the Scripps networks, the companies that have really strong media brands and really strong platforms and sustainable existing businesses that can take advantage of the technology and use it effectively across their existing platforms. And I think are going to be absorbing a lot of these technology-based companies that have grown up over the last 5 years.
Consolidation, you think? Mergers and acquisitions?
I think there's going to be over the next 36 months a tremendous number of consolidations and contraction. A lot of the VC-funded companies that, the VCs went in with 3 to 7 year windows for payout, and they're seeing the companies are not reaching the threshold that validates continued investment. So they're going to need to find ways to consolidate, or we almost have to see a contraction. If you look at the Lumascapes, the Terry Kawaja's Lumascapes, and you see 1,200 companies, and he'll tell you that's 10% of the number of companies out there. There's room for hundreds, not thousands, of companies in the various categories we're looking at.